Flowers, cake, lots of love during a lawn party for Irma Pete Dryden, a native New Yorker. She traveled to Alabama in 1943 to serve as a nurse in the Tuskegee Airmen program. That's where she met and married one of the airmen. The retired second lieutenant was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in 2014 for her service. Thank you for everything you've done. Many happy returns, Mrs. Dryden.
Coming here today for me is an honor. I served 22 years in the United States Army. I was the senior ranking African American. The first time I saw a female with rank above captain being an African American was once I joined the National Association of Black Military Women. I had no idea, I was never taught in school about black nurses or anything like that in the military. Of course, in hospitals you see that. So meeting Pete Dryden, Tuskegee honorary member, is a blessing and an honor for any woman that follows. She definitely broke the ground and broke the glass ceiling for us to follow.
We also want to introduce to you this jacket that you have on. And so now you are an honorary member of the Atlanta chapter of the National Association of Black Military Women. Okay?
Other way? Yeah, there you go.
So, there's some earrings. Yeah. Earrings. Okay? Put them on right now.
Oh!
That's so beautiful.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, now we have another presentation from the Atlanta Black Nurses Association. Yay! Ms. Jones, she will introduce herself.
And this is Cora Williams. Mama D is one of our honorary members with the National Black Nurses out of DC, Washington, DC, and also here in our local Atlanta chapter. And this is our PhD nurse, Cora Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of our president of the Atlanta Black Nurses Association, Sierra McGarity, she couldn't be here today, so I'm one of the board members, and I'm here to present a proclamation on her behalf.
Can't hear.
Get ready to mic. Got the mic. Whereas Second Lieutenant Irma Cameron Pete Dryden served our country with commendable distinction as a nurse in the Tuskegee Airmen program at the Tuskegee Air Base Hospital after completing her training at Harlem Hospital. Whereas at the young age of 23, she boarded a train in April 1943 to travel to the air base being built outside Tuskegee, Alabama. A New York City native, she had never experienced the Jim Crow racism of the South, but she and two fellow black nurses got their introduction after having to change to a segregated train in Washington, D.C. The train did not have a separate dining car for African Americans, so she and two fellow nurses were given strict rules about when and where they could eat their meals, so white passengers would not have to acknowledge them. Whereas Pete considers her service as a documented original Tuskegee Airman among her proudest accomplishments. She has remained an active member of the Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated, the nonprofit organization that preserves and teaches about the group's legacy. Whereas the airmen being trained as part of what was then called the Tuskegee Experiment were under tremendous pressure. In addition to the stresses of military service during wartime, they worked knowing that their success or failure would be used as justification for or against African Americans' participation in the armed forces. Their training was grueling on base, and at least as trying was the racism and discrimination they faced in the communities surrounding some of the bases. We knew we had a purpose, Dryden said. We had to make this thing work with the passion that other units didn't have to exhibit. Whereas Second Lieutenant Dryden married an airman she met her first day on base. First Lieutenant Charles A. Train Dryden was an instructor and a pilot, commissioned in 1942. At the time, he was part of the second ever class of black pilots to complete the U.S. Army Air Corps training program started in 1941. They were married 32 years, and Charles Dryden died in 2008. Now, therefore, the Atlanta Black Nurses Association, Incorporated, is proud to acknowledge her as an honorary member, nurse colleague, and celebrate her 100 years of graceful living and giving. She is a true testament and change maker to the nursing profession. Signed, Sierra McGarity, RN, BSN, President of the Atlanta Black Nurses Association, Incorporated.
Amen.
We expect you anytime, anytime, and how we await.
Thank you. Now we're going to have a presentation from the Atlanta chapter, Tuskegee Airmen.
On behalf of the Atlanta chapter, Tuskegee Airmen, my name is Bill Patterson. I'm the president of the chapter. And let us say to Miss Dryden, our lovely woman, she's been with us a long time, an honored member, distinguished person, advisor, and everything else. You love her, you care about her, she is one of us. We're here to dedicate your birthday with honors. And on behalf of the chapter, we got some items to present to you.
And this is in commemoration to the Tuskegee Airmen from the Coca-Cola Company during their Veterans Day program. They made these up, only made 10 of these from the artists they commissioned to do this artwork. And this one is a miniature of that print. This one I brought, but there's a larger one that I'm gonna give to you. Okay?
Can you do social distance, please?
And this, as well as a coin to their special guests at that same Veterans Day program, is a coin that they give to the guest. And this is also yours, Pete. And I still love you, Pete. This is Gregory Grant under this mask. Okay? And I'm still in love with you. And we also have a collage as well from the Atlanta chapter, Tuskegee Airmen, that we have your picture of your nurse uniform back in 1942. So we'd like to get all the other members of the Atlanta chapter to sign this to people on our 100 birthday. And also, this is personally for me. You have a special Coca-Cola bottle that has your name on it. Irma Dryden, 100.
All right. And we expect you in
anytime. We adore you for all you've done for us and how we await to see
And now we have one more presentation, and if I'm missing anybody, please tell me. It's not intentional. Pia Jordan is going to make a presentation, and she will introduce herself. And yes.
I don't know Pia. Me, Pia Jordan.
Hello everyone. I'm the director of the Tuskegee Army Nurses Project.
And if you see my bag here,
Here she is in her military. And I'm Pete. I've already given you a bag, but I had a postcard made that we used to sell to make money, donations to keep me going with this project. Right now, I'm working on a documentary about the Tuskegee Army nurses. One thing people don't realize when I interview different people, they say they didn't realize nurses were lieutenants in the Army Nurse Corps. And to be in the Army Nurse Corps, you had to be a registered nurse, which means you had already graduated from nursing school. So, be looking out for the documentary, please. Give me about 3 years to finish. And I'm glad I got here. I'm in Florida now by way of Baltimore, so I was zooming down. But I guess I'll give this to someone to give to you later. And I just want to thank you for all that you've done for me. 10 years ago, we did an extensive interview with her. So I've got stories like what some of the airmen did so they could see the nurses. That's just a tease for the future. Thank you.
thank you.
How does it feel to be 100 years old? Great. I hope to get 105. Well, thank you for coming.
Happy to be here too.